having the best summer? Oh, I don't know. Let me see. We'll have a best summer contest. What have you been doing? You going where tomorrow?
To this lake that we call Lake.
Oh. What do you do at the lake?
We swim.
You swim? And what have you done?
Play.
You play all summer long? You
No,
played?
I do swim lessons. I do lots of things. I took swim lessons and play in my new tree. And tomorrow, we're going to Stones. We're going to a zoo to see animals. Yeah.
You're going to a zoo to see animals?
Yes.
And wait, did you say you got a new tree house?
Yes.
Oh, that was on my list of things to do this summer. Was to get a new tree house.
Your kids?
Mm-hmm. There's one of them over there. But you know what I did instead? I gutted my bathroom. All right? Does that sound like fun? Hmm? And what have you done this summer?
We went to Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
Twice.
Twice?
And Connecticut.
And Connecticut? Wow. What part of the Cape did you go to?
We went to Brewster.
Have you ever heard of Wellfleet? That's if you keep going past Brewster and you keep going and it starts to turn around where the tail is. You know that, Cape Cod looks like a dog's tail or an arm. Yeah, maybe the hand part of the arm. That's about where Wellfleet is. Yeah, lots of beaches down there. We went camping down there this week. It was a lot of fun. Or this summer. What's your name?
Renee.
Renee.
My family made up a kids' day. Like it's a day when kids get like 1 or 2 presents, and that was today.
That was today.
And one of the things I got for present was my mom's and her grandmother's dress-up clothes. And there was one that was like a ball gown back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how, but she must have had like a tiny waist because it was a grown-up dress, but it fit me. So I have a couple pictures of that, but they're not here.
Wow.
So,
That's great, a kid's day.
So I got a couple presents there.
So I get to be part of your kids' day today? Huh? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel honored. All right. So what are we doing now? Stories? All right. Stories. Well, did you guys notice anything around here? No?
You're sitting in a chair.
Sitting in a chair. There's kids. I usually have kids. I usually have parents. Anything else around here? Maya, what do you notice? Huh? No, the chairs are always here. Yeah, what is that?
Maybe it's a thing that takes a beat on you?
Yeah. And it is for Medfield TV?
Yep.
Yeah. So then you will be able to, I guess, turn on Medfield TV. How do you get to Medfield TV?
It's channels 8 and 12.
8 and
local.
12. That's
And
good. It's not high numbers.
we
Once
have,
you get in the 300s.
We have a website and YouTube channel too.
Oh, nice. So if you guys like the stories today and you want to hear them again, you can go on Medfield TV, channel 8 and 12. And is there a certain time that it airs, or?
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I'll let you know.
You'll let me know. Okay, great. And then I'll let you guys know. All right? Okay, so I decided since they're going to be here that I would tell a couple of my all-time favorite stories. Are you guys ready for all-time favorite stories?
Yeah.
You are? Okay. One of my all-time favorite stories took place when I was in about 3rd grade. Do we have any about 3rd graders in here? Well, when I was about in 3rd grade, my class was going to go on a field trip. We were going to go to the Boston Aquarium. Anybody ever been to the Boston Aquarium? Oh, I love the Boston Aquarium too. Well, this is going to be my first trip to the Boston Aquarium, so I was very excited. Now, my class was so big that we needed 2 buses. So, there we were. We were outside the school, lined up, waiting for the buses. And this bus pulls up, and the door opens up, and it was my favorite bus driver, Mrs. Olson. I was so excited. I'm like, yes, Mrs. Olson. I'm going to have Mrs. Olson for my bus driver. Well, all the kids started getting on the bus, and I was just about to step on the bus when Mrs. Olson said, "Oh, Kurt, I'm sorry, my bus is full." And I said, "Oh, no." She says, "You're going to have to get on the next bus." I said, "Okay." So she pulled up, and then the next bus pulled in. And the door opened up, and I look up, and there's some old man with gray hair and glasses, and I was like, looked kind of grumpy. I said, who is that guy? And I asked my friend, I have a good friend, Cheesy. I said, "Cheesy, have you seen this guy?" He's like, "I haven't seen. Have you seen this guy?" No one had seen this guy. But this is how we were going to get into Boston. So everybody got on to the bus. Now, we're walking up and down. You guys ever get on the bus before? Like for the first time? And you're walking up and down the aisles, and you're trying to pick what seat you're going to sit on and what friend you're going to sit with. And that's what we're doing. We're walking up and down and figuring out who we're going to sit with. Well, all of a sudden, the bus driver says, "Sit down and be quiet." And we were like, everybody sat right down. He says, "Before we get started, I want you to know the rules on my bus." He said, "First rule is there's no screaming on my bus. Second rule, there's no fighting on my bus. Third rule, there's no eating on my bus. And rule number 4, there's no crying on my bus. I can't stand crying kids. They give me a stomachache." Well, needless to say, we were pretty quiet on our bus trip into Boston. Kind of sounded like this. Until finally, we made it to Boston. And the bus driver opened the doors, and we were like, oh. We got off the bus, and into the Boston Aquarium we went. And we saw penguins, and we saw a dolphin show, and we saw jellyfish, and we saw sharks, and big, huge whale bones hanging on the ceiling. What else? Anybody ever been to the aquarium? What else did you see there?
Fish. There was an octopus.
An octopus, we saw that.
Jelly, sea turtle.
Sea turtles swimming around. Anything else you might think you'd see at an aquarium? Hmm?
They had a touch tank.
Oh, a touch tank. And you got to pick up what?
You got to touch and pick up animals.
Yeah.
Now you don't get to pick them up.
No, now you just have to look at them?
Yeah, you can. Usually big fish.
Big fish are usually swimming around, big giant shiny tunas, and right? And then you get to pick up starfish sometimes. Well, we had a great time at the aquarium. Had a great time. Now, we were getting ready to get back on the bus. It's starting to get dark outside. And Mrs. Olson's bus, all the kids got back onto her bus. And then we had to get back onto the grumpy bus driver's bus. And the chaperones were getting ready to get back on the bus. And the bus driver said, hey, you know what? These kids were really good on the way in. Why don't you go help out on that other bus? I heard they were pretty naughty. So the chaperones were like, oh, okay, good idea. So we were on the bus, and we took off. And there we were behind Mrs. Olson's bus. Now we're going along, and, we kind of forgot about how grumpy the bus driver was. And we started talking about all the cool things that we had seen at the aquarium. We were talking about the giant sea turtle and the starfish and the jellyfish and the big giant fish swimming around and the sharks. And we started to get louder and louder and louder. Well, all of a sudden, the bus swerved this way. Then it swerved that way. And then we looked up and it was completely dark out. And we're like, what is going on? And we could hear branches going by the windows. And we're like, what is going on? And then we looked up to see if we could see Mrs. Olson's bus. And we couldn't see her bus anymore. All we could see, you guys ever look, who's been on a bus before? Well, if you've never been on a bus before, there's a big, huge, giant mirror in the bus that the bus driver can look and he can see all the kids on his bus. Well, when we looked up at the big giant mirror, all we could see were these two red lights. So all the kids started doing what? Screaming. Ah! But then they remembered that that was one of the bus driver's rules, not to scream. So everybody stopped screaming, except for this one girl, Candy. Candy could not stop screaming. All of a sudden, the bus driver slammed on the brakes, turned around, pointed to Candy, and said, you, what's your name? And Candy said, my name is Candy. Candy Cane. And the bus driver said, well, I said there's no screaming on my bus. You come with me. So Candy stands up, she follows the bus driver off the bus. We all want to see what's going on. So we all run to the side of the bus to see if we could see what was going on. We can't see anything. All we hear is, then the bus driver gets back on the bus and he's all by himself. He gets into the driver's seat, and we're like, hey, wait a minute. Excuse me. Where's Candy? The bus driver just turned around and rubbed his belly and said, don't worry, she's right here. He got back into the seat and started driving. And we're like, huh? What's going on? What happened to Candy? We're all whispering back and forth. What happened? Where's Candy? Now, in my class, I had this real know-it-all girl. Her name was Marcia Mello. Now, Marcia Mello, she always had an answer for everything. So she said, well, you know what? I think that Candy's mom, she works in Boston, and maybe she saw the bus and decided to pick up Candy and take her home herself. And we were like, oh yeah, that has to be it. That's what happened to Candy. So we all went back to talking, and we forgot about Candy after a while. Now, remember my good friend Cheesy I was telling you about? Yeah. Well, he was kind of a little troublemaker. And he was sitting beside me, and there was this girl sitting in front of us, and Cheesy grabs her hat. And she had this Red Sox hat on, and he grabbed her hat, and she turned around and she said, give me back my hat. Her name was Tootsie. And Tootsie, she turned around and said, give me back my hat. And Cheesy said, no. And Tootsie said, give me back my hat. And Cheesy said, no, give me back my hat. No, give me back my hat. No. Well, all of a sudden, all the kids on the bus start chanting, fight, 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 fight. Well, all of a sudden, the bus driver slams on the brakes. We said, oh, that was one of the rules on the bus driver said. He cannot do what? No fighting on the bus. Well, all of a sudden, the bus driver turned around and he pointed to my friend Cheesy. He said, you, what's your name? And my friend said, my name is Cheesy. Cheesy Ricotta. And you, what's your name? My name is Tootsie. Tootsie Roll. I said, there's no fighting on my bus. You two come with me. So the two of them follow the bus driver off the bus. We want to see what's going on, so we all ran to the side of the bus. We couldn't see anything. All we heard was, then the bus driver gets back on the bus. And again, he's all by himself. He gets back into the seat. He's getting ready to drive. And we said, excuse me, but where's Cheesy and where's Tootsie? The bus driver stood up, turned around, and rubbed his belly and said, don't worry, they're right here. He got back into the driver's seat and started driving. So now we're like, what's going on? Where's Tootsie? Where's Cheesy? Where are they? We couldn't figure it out. So of course, Miss Marshmallow, she could figure it out. She said, well, you know what? I think that maybe they live in Candy's neighborhood. And her mom just decided that she would just bring them home too. So we were like, yeah, I guess. So here we were going along, and everyone's kind of getting a little nervous because these kids are gone missing. Well, I look over at the seat across from me, and I see my friend, Chip. Now, Chip, whenever he gets nervous, he has to have chocolate. So I look at him, and he gets really low. He's kind of all scrunched down in his chair so that the bus driver can't see him. And he's got his lunchbox on his lap. And he's opening up his lunchbox. And he pulls out a candy bar. And he starts unwrapping the candy bar. And he breaks off a little piece. And I said, Chip, Chip, Chip. Don't eat that chocolate. It's one of the bus driver's rules. He said, no eating. And Chip looked over at me. He said, I'm sorry, man. I can't help it. I'm nervous. I have to have chocolate. So he puts the chocolate in his mouth, and he's trying to be all sneaky about it, but he's getting chocolate all over his fingers and all over his mouth. And I look up at the bus driver, and the bus driver starts going like this. He can smell the chocolate in the air. Well, all of a sudden he goes, slams on the brakes, turns around, points to Chip, and starts walking down the aisle, sniffing. And then he looks at me as he stops. Then he looks at Chip, and there's Chip sitting there with chocolate all over his face. And the bus driver said, you, what's your name? And Chip says, my name is Chip. Chip ahoy. I said,
There's no eating on my bus. Come with me and bring your lunchbox.
Well, Chip followed the bus driver off the bus. We all want to see what's going on, but we can't see anything.
All we heard was,
And again, the bus driver gets back on the bus all by himself. And we were like, oh no, where's Chip? Where is Chip?
and the bus driver just looked at us and just said, don't worry, he's right here. Now all of a sudden the kids got so nervous that we all started crying. But then they remembered what?
No crying.
There's no crying on the bus. So everybody stopped crying.
Except for these two kids, Artie and Ralph. They could not stop crying. And they cried. And the bus driver pointed to him and said, you, what's your name? And my friend said, my name's Artie. Artie Choke. And you, what's your name? My name is Ralph. Ralph Dussup. Well, I said, there is no crying on my bus. You two, come with me.
So the two of them follow the bus driver off the bus. We want to see what's going on, but we can't see anything.
All we heard was,
Then we heard,
then we heard,
and then every kid that was ever missing all ran back on the bus. And they're all covered in green slime. And the last one to get on the bus was Candy Cane. And she said, quick, close the doors, close the window. The bus driver, he ate us, but he choked on Art and Ralphed us up.
always goes right over their heads.
Quick, close the window, close the door. So the kids ran around the bus, they closed the bus door, and they're running around the bus, closing up all the windows. And I'm just sitting there in my seat. I'm like, what is going on? This is the craziest bus ride I've ever been on. Well, everyone huddled to the middle of the bus. And this one kid, Dill Pickles, he looks in the back, and he says, look, in the very back, there's one more window open. So all the kids were like, ah, because they could see these red lights running around the bus, trying to get back on the bus. So they run back, and just as they were about to close the window up, this hand reaches in, but they close the window up, and the hand falls off in the bus and starts flipping all around the bus. And the kids are like, ah! And they all ran off the bus except for me, because I'm sitting there saying, I can't believe this is the craziest bus ride I've ever been on. And the hand's flapping around, and all of a sudden the hand jumps up and pulls me by my shirt, and I said, let go, let go, let go, let go. Then I opened my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, well, I was back at school. And all the kids were getting off the bus, just walking. And somebody was still pulling on my shirt. And I looked up, and it was the bus driver.
You know, just that regular old grumpy bus driver. And he said, "Hey, kid, come on, wake up, get off of my bus." I said, "Huh?" "Yeah, get off my bus." I never seen a kid sleep so deeply. "Get off my bus." And I said, "Huh? Sleeping?" And I sat there for a moment, and I realized that it was all just a dream. Huh. Phew. Good thing. Well, the bus driver's still standing there, and he said, "Come on, kid, do you need a hand?" And when he lifted up his hand, he had a hook on the end of his hand. Well, I got off the bus, and I walked toward my school, and I turned around, and I watched the bus drive away. And guess what? I never, ever saw that bus driver again. The end. What do you think? True story?
No.
Why was that not a true story?
It was.
Because you can't like sleep for a field trip, or the bus driver would just like pick you up and wake you up.
Because you can't sleep through a field trip. Why else couldn't have been a true story?
It was perfect.
It was what?
It was perfect.
It was perfect? Oh, that's sweet. That was a perfect story? Oh, well, thank you.
I like when you guys went to the crater. I like the crater. We like to go there on rice. Perfect.
You do?
Yeah.
All right, you guys have any other reasons?
Yeah.
What?
Because the person next to you would have woke you up.
Oh, my friend Cheesy would have woke me up. What about the names? Huh? Isn't that a cookie? It is a cookie. What else? Candy cane, what's that?
A candy cane.
It's candy cane.
Dill pickle.
Dill pickles, what's that? What else? Huh? Yeah. Maya remembers now, many years ago, when I was younger, I had a job and I worked at a swimming pool. And there were swimming lessons there. Who said they took swim lessons? Well, during these swim lessons, every day, this girl would come and take swim lessons. She was probably 6 or 7 years old. And guess what her name was? Marcia Mello.
No.
Real name, Marcia Mello. Can you believe it? And then when I was a kid, I had a friend whose name was Cheesy, and I had a friend whose name was Candy. They were their nicknames, but yeah. And Cheesy had a brother named Sugar. So that's how I came up with that story. Because one day I was working at MAP and we went on a field trip and we had the grumpiest bus driver ever.
No.
And my daughters seem to think it's their bus driver. All right. Did you? Oh, well, that's all I needed to hear. I was going to say, did you like that story? But I just heard it was a perfect story. All right. Are you ready for another one?
Yes.
All right. Let's see. So I asked my daughters, I said, well, if you were to watch Medfield TV and you had to listen to a story, what would it be? And what did you say, Maya?
Annoying girl.
Oh, she wants to hear the story about, well, this easily annoyed girl and the hideous creature, it's called. Well, it goes like this. So there's this girl, and she's very easily annoyed. Now, she has an older brother, and she has a younger brother. And her younger brother probably annoys her the most. Anybody else here have a younger brother and an older brother? Huh, ding! Are you easily annoyed?
Yeah.
Do they annoy you? Which one annoys you the most? You don't know. That's funny. Well, her little brother annoyed her the most, and I tell you why he annoyed her the most. Well, just about every day after supper time, he would never eat his vegetables, so he would go into the TV room and he would plop himself down right in front of the TV. And now when she was done, because she ate her vegetables, she would go into the room and she'd sit down on the couch, and there would be her brother on the floor, plopped down right in front of the TV. And she couldn't see a thing. Now, she's already annoyed because I told you she's very easily annoyed, right? But she knows she has to be polite to her brother. So she says, "Could you please move out of the way so I could see the TV?" Well, her little brother, being her little brother, just ignored her. So now she's really annoyed. So she decides she's going to do her most favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. That is to scare her little brother. So while he's sitting in front of the TV watching the Disney Channel, probably, she snuck up behind him and she said, "Boo!" And she said boo so loud that he went, pew, shot right up into the sky, went up so high that he hit his head on the ceiling and went, ouch! And all of a sudden, he gets a lump on top of his head. But he lands right back in front of the TV. And now she can't see even more because of that lump on his head. So she decides, I'm going to do it again. So again, she sneaks up behind him. Boom! Ow! He's got 2 lumps on his head. Well, he gets about 5 lumps on his head. And finally he says, "That's it. I'm going to bed." So he goes to bed. Her older brother goes to bed. Her mom and dad goes to bed. She goes to bed. And there she was, laying in her bed, when she hears at her window. She's like, So she gets out of her bed. She goes over to the window. She looks outside the window. And outside the window, she sees this hideous-looking creature. Now, I want you to remember what it looks like. You ready? It has long, dark, scraggly hair. It has 3 huge noses, and on the end of each nose was a big, fat, juicy wart with a greasy piece of hair sticking out of it. Wow. So she looks down at the hideous creature. Hideous creature looks up at her, reaches up, opens up the window and said, "Do you want to know what I like to do with my long red fingernails and my big red lips?" And she goes, "No!" Ah! And she runs and she jumps into her bed and she throws the covers over her head. And you know what she did? She fell asleep. She got up in the morning. She forgot about that hideous creature she had seen. She goes down. She has breakfast. Gets on the bus. Goes to school. Gets out to recess, where everybody annoys her. All she does at recess all day is says, "You annoy me. You annoy me. You annoy me. You annoy me. You really annoy me. You annoy me. You annoy me." All day long. Now, when recess is over, she goes back to school. School ends. She gets back on the bus. She goes home. And there she is that evening, sitting at the supper table with her older brother. Now did I tell you he annoys her? Right? He does.
You said the little one does.
Well, he annoys her the most, but her older brother also annoys her. So she decides she's going to do her second most favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. And that is to make her older brother puke. or Ralph.
Make someone do that.
Well, I'll tell you what she did. She looks around for Mom and Dad, first of all. Then she grabs a great big handful of green peas and stuffs them in her mouth. And then she starts to chew them. And she waits until they get all goopy, goppy green. And then she taps her older brother on the shoulder. And he turns around and says, "What do you want, Pipsqueak?" And she goes, "Nah!" And he goes, "Ooh!" And makes it to the bathroom just in time. He comes out and he said, "I'm going to bed." So he goes to bed. Her younger brother goes to bed. Her mom and dad go to bed. She goes to bed. And there she is, laying in her bed, when she heard again at her window. And she's getting a little annoyed. So she goes over to the window. She looks outside the window. And guess what it is?
Monster.
That hideous looking creature. Anybody remember what it looks like?
Yes, Mommy.
Long, dark, scraggly hair. It had 3 huge noses, and on the end of each nose was a big, fat, juicy wart with a greasy piece of hair sticking out of it. Wow. She looks down at the hideous creature. Hideous creature looks up, opens up the window, and said, "Do you want to know what I like to do with my long red fingernails and my big red lips?" And again she goes, "No! Ah!" This time she runs and she slides underneath her bed, and she's laying under her bed until
She falls asleep.
she falls asleep. She gets up in the morning. She says, "Why am I laying under my bed?" And she forgot about that hideous creature. She went to breakfast. She went to school. She went to recess. "You annoy me. You annoy me. You really annoy me. You annoy me." Everybody annoys her. She comes from school, and there she is again at the supper table with her mom and dad this time. Now they don't annoy her as much, but she decides she's going to do her third most favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. And that is to make her parents be impolite at the supper table. So she gets a great idea, and she said, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I bet you $10 that I can make you be impolite at the supper table." And her parents said, "Oh, honey, we would never, ever be impolite, especially to you, and especially at the dinner table." And she says, "Come on, I'll bet you $10. I'll bet you $10 I can make you be impolite at the supper table." "Oh dear, we would never be impolite at the supper table, especially to you." "Come on then, bet me $10. Okay. We will bet you $10 that you cannot make us be impolite at the supper table." And she said, "Okay. Are you ready? I have a riddle." And they said, "Okay." And she said, "Okay, here's the riddle. Pete and Repeat were sitting on a fence, and Pete jumped off. Who was left?"
Repeat.
"Okay, Pete and Repeat were sitting on a fence. Pete jumped off. Who was left?"
Repeat.
"Okay, Pete and Repeat were sitting on a fence. Pete jumped off. Who was left?"
Repeat.
"Okay, Pete and Repeat were sitting on a fence. Pete jumped off. Who was left?"
Repeat.
"Okay, Pete and Repeat were sitting on a fence. Pete jumped off. Who was left?"
Repeat.
"Okay, Pete and Repeat sitting on a fence. Pete jumped off. Who was left?" "Okay, Pete and Repeat sitting on a fence. Pete jumped off. Who was left?"
Repeat.
"Okay, Pete and Repeat sitting on a fence. Pete jumped off. Who was left?" "Okay, Pete and Repeat. Shut up!"
Who said that?
Her parents. Was that impolite?
Yes.
Absolutely. You never say that to anybody, especially at the dinner table. So, guess what? They both reached into their pockets and they both gave her $10 each.
20 bucks.
20 bucks. Good math. So her parents were pretty annoyed. And guess what they did? They went to bed. And then her older brother went to bed. And her younger brother went to bed. And she went to bed. And there she was, laying in bed, when she heard at the window. Think she's annoyed?
Yes.
She gets out of the bed, she goes over to the window, she looks down, and there she sees it. What do you think it is? That hideous creature. What's it look like? Long, dark, scraggly hair, 3 huge noses, and on the end of each nose was a big, fat, juicy wart with a greasy piece of hair sticking out of it. Wow. She looks down at the hideous creature. Hideous creature looks up, opens up the window, and said, "Do you want to know what I like to do with my long red fingernails and my big red lips?" Oh, now she's annoyed, really annoyed. And she said, "That is it. That's it. I can't take it anymore. I told you the other night, I don't want to know what you do with your long red fingernails and your big red lips. I told you last night, I don't want to know what you do with your long red fingernails and your big red lips. So what is it? What is it that you do with your long red fingernails and your big red lips?" Well, that hideous creature looked at her and reached his long red fingernails up to its big red lips and went, and that's the end of the story of the easily annoyed girl. Good choice, Maya. Well, I want to thank you guys very much for coming out tonight. In the middle of the summer, where you could be what? What could you be doing right now? You could be hanging out in your treehouse. That's exactly what I was going to say. But that's another story. You are a good storyteller.
I tell long stories.
You do.
I tell short stories.
Yeah, I tell short ones too. Yes?
My mom tells stories too.
Yeah. That's a good thing to do, is tell stories.
My mom.
Make up stories, right?
My mom reads stories.
Reading is very important. I read all the time so I can find those, what? Some good stories. There's good stories out there. I read for storytelling. So you guys make sure before you leave the library, you get yourself a good book. Right? Right. What's up, Doc?
I remember when you were the Grinch.
When I was the Grinch? I was the Grinch? Where was I the Grinch?
I think it's in the
Oh, spaghetti with Santa? Were you there? Are you sure that was me? All right, you guys, go home, get out of here.
Thank you.
I mean, go get a book. Thank you guys so much for coming out.
Those are the best stories.
Those are the best. What is your name? So at MAP, I decided that we would have a kids' day at MAP. So we do really special things. We have.
When is your kids' day?
When is our kids'
Yeah,
day?
what day did you pick?
We picked a day. It's always because they usually have 3 half days in March.
Okay.
So we picked. It's always the 3rd half day in March that we have a kids' day, and then we have parents like write something really nice about their kids and send it in, and we put them up. And then we do, we have gifts for the kids, but then we also have the kids make a gift for somebody less fortunate. And then we have the ice cream man, this guy named Mr. Chill, who comes and gives them ice cream. Yeah. So it's a really fun day. Yeah. But I love that you said that.
There's a mom's day and there's a dad's day.
And there's a grandparents' day.
The preceding was a production of Medfield TV.